Well, hello, personal adjustment students, and welcome to week 2. So by now, good things to have accomplished would be the exercises from chapter 1 that you can actually do alone at home, the ones that didn't require a partner, and we'll be doing those on February 4th. You need to be aware that in one of the narrated PowerPoints, I put our exact quiz so you can look up all the answers to it in chapter 1 and be ready for that on February 6th. And once we complete the in-class portion of the exercises on February 4th, you'll be ready to turn in your chapter 1 exercises that you fill out in the template that you find by clicking the link Portfolio 1 template on our Canvas homepage. Also, if you want to know which worksheets are going to be part of your folder that you turn in on the same day that the portfolio is due to the assignment box in Canvas online, you can click on Portfolio 1 Worksheets and there will be a list of them. Those are the ones that you either tear out because those are perforated pages in your textbook and you have them filled out and you just include them in your folder, or you'll need to print a copy of it if you have the ebook, or make a copy of those pages if you're just reading our textbook in the library. Okay, so if you're doing that, you're pretty well caught up. So we'll start with chapter 2. I don't really know who Alexandra Stoddard is, but she said, "What we do today, right now, will have an accumulated effect on all of our tomorrows." And that, I think, is a very important thing to keep in mind. I hope you're thinking about building habits of excellence now as a student and if you work and in your relationships, because those habits take you into your future. It's important to start those habits now if you have not yet started them, like getting up at a reasonable time, going to bed at a reasonable time, eating well, getting some decent sleep, taking care of your physical health, exercising, as well as your mental health by being stimulated by new information. Okay, so we do know who Bruce Lee is, and he said, "Always be yourself and have faith in yourself." And the question for the chapter is, well then, who am I? And that's what we're going to pursue. Oh, I need to make this a little bit bigger so you can see the whole thing. Nope, it doesn't want to resize. Well, okay, we'll go from left to right. Okay, so also Melody Beattie, who wrote an amazing book called The Language of Letting Go, said, "Today I will be who I am. And if I'm not certain yet who I am, I will affirm that I have a right to that exciting discovery." Okay, magically, I resized the screen to include the entire quote. I will be reading to you some of her other things that she has said in the book called The Language of Letting Go. And that is a daily affirmation book. And I think she does a really nice job of talking about various elements that are really important in our lives. Okay, I wanted to revisit the big picture on the portfolios. Here's my goal: to verify that you've learned the text material and benefited from the class discussions and lectures by demonstrating your ability to apply the concepts from the text to real situations in your life. So that's what happens at the end of each chapter. The exercises are designed to have you apply the lessons from the chapter to your own world. Then your goal is to convince me that you've learned the text material and benefited from class discussions and lectures well enough to be able to apply it to real situations in your life. So whenever you're wondering, I don't know exactly what to do with this particular exercise, go back to this big picture and remember that I'm looking to see if you can apply the stuff in the chapter to your life. Your goal is to convince me that you can do so. I wanted also to revisit the highlighted text material requirement. So again, the purpose is to demonstrate that you have understood the text material well enough to apply it to the situations in the exercises and in your life. So for each exercise, you will add a paraphrase section from the text that applies to that exercise. You can either use the computer's highlight tool or you can highlight it with highlighter. Well, you can't highlight it with highlighter anymore. Sorry, that's old news because you are submitting it electronically. Okay? And then, for example, on the forgiveness letter, no highlight needed. You're just writing that letter. And I'll tell you a lot more about that soon. That turns out to be one of the class's favorite exercises. Okay, so here's an example. The Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale. It says, from the strategies to improve self-esteem discussed in the text, what do you think you need to do to improve your self-esteem? Okay, so even if you have high self-esteem, try to apply this in your life in terms of helping your own child improve their self-esteem, or if a friend would really like to improve their self-esteem. So you can always do something with this material, even if it doesn't feel like it directly applies to you. Okay, so in that exercise, it says cite and highlight in yellow a section of the text. So you say, one of the things the book talks about on page whatever is confirm your strengths. Okay, then the directions in the template say give careful thought to the citation above and relate it to your life in a full paragraph or more. So you start by saying, I think this would be excellent for me to take into account the things I do well instead of focusing on my faults. I could write a list of things that I do well and look at it occasionally. That might improve my self-esteem. Okay, so see what I'm looking for here? Something from the book that's related to the question in the exercise, and then your thoughts about the thing that you've quoted from the book. That's all you need to do. It's built into the template for you. It reminds you to do it each time. And once you get the hang of it, this will be no problem. Please do not do what some of my students have said they do, and then they regret it. They go through doing all the exercises, and then they go back to look for a highlight and talk about it. That means that the information is not fresh in your mind from just having read it and completing the exercises. So I highly recommend you do the highlight and the comment on it as you do the exercises. Okay, so here's the topics in chapter 2. Who am I? So we're going to talk about Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. So we're going to look at how you have grown since you were born and the kinds of things that were important for you to develop socially and emotionally along the way. You're going to take the Big 5 personality characteristic test, and you're going to get a little feedback on your strengths and your areas for improvement with that. We're going to look at self-esteem, and we're also going to talk about self-actualization, which, think about, do you know what that means? Right, reaching your full potential. Okay, so the quiz topics will be self-image, trait theory, and cognitive restructuring. And the theorists in the quizzes will be Freud, Adler, Erikson, and Sullivan. I don't make hard quiz questions like, which of the following theorists said this thing? I don't want you to memorize all of that. In the statement, it will be, Harry Stack Sullivan suggested that blah, blah, blah. Is this true or false? Or which of the following is not one of Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development? So I'm not making you guess which theorist goes with which theory. I just want you to emphasize reading about these because there will be questions about their theories. Okay, boy, another quote pops up. The purpose of life is undoubtedly to know oneself. Gandhi. And there was an interesting situation where Aaron Gandhi, his grandson, was at MJC, and he told a wonderful story about his grandfather. He said that one time he drove into the town and dropped his grandfather off somewhere and took the car in to be serviced. And then he decided to take himself to the movies. And he was really late coming back to pick up his grandfather. So his grandfather, Gandhi, started walking home, and it was miles from the town back to the village where Gandhi lived. And Aaron came up and he said, "Oh, grandfather, I'm so sorry. I please get in the car." And Gandhi said, "No, I'm going to walk all the way home." And Aaron's like, "Please, grandfather, I feel terrible. I'm sorry I was so late to pick you up. Why won't you get into the car?" And Gandhi said, "Because I need this time to walk home and contemplate why, what, in what way I have fallen short in teaching my grandson important lessons, like picking up his grandfather on time." And Gandhi wasn't like trying to play the martyr or making his grandson feel guilty. He literally took the responsibility. Instead of saying, "My grandson, you are bad and you have bad behavior," he said, "I will figure out what I should have done so that you would not have acted this way." It's kind of a profound angle on it, and a lot of us could learn a lesson from that. Okay, Chapter 2, portfolio entries. All of them are completed at home. So you can get a jump on the class by completing these because they won't be due until at least a week after we come back on February 4th. So you're going to do the Big 5 test, like I said, find out about your personality. You're going to do, I am a person who conveys, and you can do it at home with a friend or family member. They're going to check off some adjectives that they think describe you. 2-3 is the adjective checklist, and you make a copy for a friend or family member to fill out. Again, they're identifying adjectives that describe you so you can see how you come across to other people. You're going to find out your self-esteem score and talk about it a little bit. And then you're going to do this thing called the Human Relations Position Paper. Oh, I have put a post-it on this in your portfolio. I got to update this. There's no post-it needed because you're turning this in electronically. Back in the day, I used to have people turn in physical copies. I will give you some detailed instructions on your human relations paper now. Okay, in exercise 2-6, the human relations paper, the goal is to develop a perspective on how you became the person you are now based on the many influences in your life. So that's the big picture. You're going to respond to a lot of prompts asking you about your history with your family, significant events that have happened in your family that have shaped you to be who you are, friends, your elementary, junior high, and high school experiences, the significant people in your life, like your coaches or dance instructors or cheer team leader or advisors in clubs or other friends, people that have been significant influences on your life, and you're going to talk about in what way they influenced you and how who they were to you at the time has influenced you to be who you are at this time. So respond to as many of the prompts as you can and give information that you think shows how you became you. Don't feel compelled to share anything that makes you uncomfortable. This will be confidential just between you and I, but this is not a requirement for talking about things that you are not comfortable talking about. And it's usually about 5 or more pages actually, but what you're doing is you don't have to have references or anything like that. Please double space it because I like to put little comments in between when I read it. And this is one of the assignments that I read in complete detail when you turn in your portfolio. So keep in mind that you're not writing it to tell me about you. You're writing it to tell you about you. And I suggest that you get started on this because it does take some time. So start on it as soon as you can. Okay, there'll be more for Chapter 2 coming in our next video. Bye!